Modern America was not born peacefully. It was forged through rebellion, sacrifice, and a war against the most powerful empire of its time. In the mid-18th century, 13 British colonies stretched along the eastern coast of North America. They were prosperous, growing, and, at first, largely loyal to the British Crown. Most colonists did not dream of independence. They considered themselves British citizens, protected by the empire and entitled to the rights of Englishmen. But that relationship would begin to unravel after a global conflict changed everything. The turning point came after the 7 Years' War, a massive struggle fought across Europe, North America, and beyond. Britain emerged victorious, but the victory came at a terrible cost. The empire was drowning in debt, and Parliament looked to the American colonies to help pay the bill. New taxes were imposed, the Stamp Act, Sugar Act, and Townshend Acts, forcing colonists to pay for imperial defense. From Britain's perspective, this was fair. From the colonists' perspective, it was tyranny. They had no representatives in Parliament, yet were being taxed by it. The phrase, "no taxation without representation," spread rapidly, becoming the rallying cry of resistance. At first, colonial opposition was measured and peaceful. Merchants organized boycotts, pamphlets criticized royal authority, and colonial assemblies petitioned the king. But tensions kept rising. British soldiers were stationed in colonial cities to enforce order, and their presence only inflamed anger. In 1770, a confrontation in Boston turned deadly when British troops fired into a crowd, killing 5 civilians. The incident became known as the Boston Massacre and was used by Patriot leaders as proof that British rule had become violent and oppressive. 3 years later, defiance turned into open rebellion. When Britain granted a monopoly on tea sales to the East India Company, colonists responded dramatically. Disguised as Native Americans, they boarded ships in Boston Harbor and dumped hundreds of chests of tea into the water. The Boston Tea Party shocked Britain. In response, Parliament passed the Coercive Acts, shutting down Boston's port and placing Massachusetts under strict military control. To many colonists, this confirmed their worst fears. British rule, they believed, no longer protected their rights, it threatened them. By 1775, the situation had become explosive. Armed conflict erupted at Lexington and Concord when British troops attempted to seize colonial weapons. Militia forces confronted them, shots were fired, and the war had begun. The American colonies now faced an enormous challenge. Britain possessed the world's strongest navy, a professional army, and vast financial resources. The colonists had militias, limited supplies, and deep internal divisions. Victory seemed impossible. Yet the Americans had a powerful advantage. They were fighting for their own land, their families, and their future. In 1776, the conflict evolved from rebellion into revolution. Thomas Jefferson drafted the Declaration of Independence, a document that went far beyond announcing separation from Britain. It declared that all men are born with natural rights, that governments exist to protect those rights, and that the people have the authority to overthrow unjust rule. These ideas were radical and dangerous. The American Revolution was no longer just about taxes or representation. It was a direct challenge to monarchy itself. If successful, it would inspire people everywhere to question absolute power. The war that followed was long, brutal, and uncertain. George Washington's army suffered repeated defeats, shortages of food and clothing, and collapsing morale. At Valley Forge, soldiers endured freezing temperatures, disease, and hunger. Desertion was common, and the revolution nearly collapsed. But perseverance kept the cause alive. Then, in 1777, a crucial victory at Saratoga changed the course of the war. American forces defeated a major British army, convincing France that the revolution was winnable.